All right, today I'm going to show you the laziest way to take an illustration from day to night. Okay, so I haven't done this in a long time, so I'm not totally sure this is going to work, but I'm going to start with a purple layer, and I'm going to put the layer setting to multiply and lower the opacity. So this is going to unify the entire background so that it feels like nighttime. And what I do next is add light. What I just did was add a mask. You can also just erase this layer, but I feel like if I do a mask, then if I want to change the color of that layer later, it's a lot easier. So I'm erasing, or you can draw with black for masks. That's how they work. I should do a whole video on how to use masks, but basically use black or white and it either erases or adds color. So as you can see right now, I'm going to go back and forth and pick out the areas of what I'm going to be considering the light source. And this illustration is a really great example for this because the light source is directly on the page, so it's a lot easier. So if you're a beginner and you want to practice this, try and do it with an illustration that has the light source directly on the illustration already. So now when you have light, it's going to cast light onto the ground. So I'm adding that in, but I'm adding in the shadow that would not have it of like the wall. The light will go onto the ground, so there's not going to be a light directly against the wall. There's going to be a little gap. And then I'm also going to add in the shadow that the girl's going to make because the light can't go through her. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the entire illustration this way of trying to figure out like where are the cast shadows or light and what areas are a light source. Like I'm going to go ahead and do the door there too as well. I'm going to be honest, I was a little bit hesitant about showing this technique and doing this today because I know there's going to be people that are going to be like, this is lazy and that's, super basic and you're not going into details enough. But I find as an illustrator, if I can have something that's like really quickly gets me most of the way there to the final product, then you go in and you finesse it and add details. And when I do this technique, it does that. It just gets me most of the way there, and then it's less daunting to go in the details. But also putting a layer like this over everything, it's dark and all the colors are already united. So it feels like it goes together. So it's actually a lot easier to pick your colors and a lot easier to make it feel like it all flows when you do this technique. And one thing that you'll notice is on objects like the tree and the girl, I'm adding what's called a little bit of rim lighting. So there's light right behind it. So on the edges there, I'm adding that light. So it looks like they're also a part of that world, but I'm not going too crazy, just a little bit of that. But again, I can just do that with the erase layer. One thing that you can do that I didn't do because I'm keeping this really, really simple is if you did want to add a little bit more softer lighting, because I'm doing very hard lighting here. There's no soft edges. It's all hard edges. Is you would use like a gray or a softer brush, because on a mask, the gray will come out as like partly transparent instead of just like erasing everything. Okay, and this next part, I'm going to just tell you right now, I was trying it and I didn't like it. So I just drew it back in and erased it. And the reason I didn't like it, because it might actually have light reflect up there, but I felt it was distracting for my focal point. For what I'm trying to accomplish in this illustration is focusing on the girl and the toy store. And when I brought that bright of a light, which honestly, I don't think it would be that bright anyway, it would be pretty subtle, it was drawing my eye up too much. And I want to keep most of that contrast right around the girl and right around the door in the toy store, and let us focus on that and let everything else kind of just fade away. Okay, I'm going to just speed this section up really fast because this is just doing little details and deciding, do I want the sign to be lit up too or not, and just getting that finesse in, which is always really the longest part of any illustration. And I don't think that it's super helpful for you guys to see me paint in a leaf. All right, so I want to show you, if you did want to take it further, you could do something like this. So I'm using a yellow layer for light, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to change the layer setting. This time I'm going to do overlay and then lower down the opacity. And so that's how I can make that sort of inset door area if I wanted to, a little brighter, and add different variations of light. So this would be a bit more advanced going in and adding things like this. You can also do softer gradients. Like I said, all of the light I've done here has been with a pretty hard brush. So you can either use a soft brush, or you could be lazy like I am, and I'll paint it in with a hard brush and then just use the gradient tool to add the softness. I don't know why I don't like soft brushes. It's a weird thing about me. Anyways, all right, so here I am doing another light layer. I ended up deciding to not do this. But that's how you would do it if you guys wanted to see. And then I'll show you, I'm going to add an extra dark layer towards the top here, and I'm going to use the gradient tool I was talking about to fade it out and make it look like it's getting darker towards the top, which also helps bring your eye into the focal point of the girl with the toys, which I do actually like. And I ended up keeping this part. Your eye doesn't want to go up there anymore. Your eye wants to stay down with the girl and look at that focal point. All right, if you enjoyed this tutorial, I'd really appreciate your, follow, subscribe, like, all the YouTubey stuff. And I did a short version of this on Instagram if you want to check it out. Bye!